Welcome to this live masterclass where I want to share with you the 7 concepts that have helped me quit people pleasing and embody my unstoppable self. So, I actually have a beautiful presentation for our masterclass today. So, anytime inside this masterclass, whenever you have a question, think that I'm here live with you and you can answer. You can ask me any question that comes up while I walk you through this entire presentation. These 7 concepts, trust me, if you are going to embody these 7 concepts, 7 ideas, everything will change. You will feel more liberated in your soul, you will feel more empowered, and you'll feel like your unstoppable self. I've been doing this work for the last 2 years, and it is not, these 7 concepts are things that I have embodied, I have lived with, and it is something that these are something that I've also shared with my clients, and they have also gotten amazing results. So, just to show you the power of these 7 concepts, I have shared some of the testimonials in this presentation so that you know your mind can also perceive that this is possible for me as well. So I've had multiple clients over the last 2 years, and one of the main testimonial that I've shared here is of somebody who has gone through. Um, she had a really troubled childhood, chaotic childhood. There were things happening with her every other year as a little girl, and she went from one therapist to another, but she was not able to figure out what really is going on, what really is happening underneath. She thought like she's a rebel, she's hyper independent, but ultimately what we realized was, as I started to work with her, that she was also a people pleaser, and being a rebel is another form of people pleasing, and that is something that I can discuss in some other masterclass or in some other conversation with you. But we were able to really help her connect with her inner child, and she was able to overcome those people pleasing tendencies. I think in just 3 months, or it was 6 months, maybe, because if of course the timing will vary depending on how deep seated these tendencies are, but more often than not, all of the other testimonials are of people or of my women who've done this, who've overcome these tendencies in 3 months. So 7 concepts that have changed my life, my client's life. I am presenting those to you today. I hope you are open to receiving them, because these are not something I'm going to say very mind blowing. These are concepts that we already know, but sometimes when we hear something with an open heart, we finally let it land. So if you're here watching me, listening to me, I hope that you open your awareness, open yourself up to receiving these, so that they finally land and you can finally start to release these tendencies from your life, from your body, from your mind, from your soul. Okay, I really am on this big mission that I want every woman to feel empowered, to feel like her unstoppable self. And I know that once we start to feel it individually, it will also have its ripple effect on the collective, and collectively the world will be a better place, right? So yeah, without further ado, let me first share the first concept that really changed how I looked at myself, how I looked at my life, how I looked at everything. And that is, when I close my eyes, the world ends. My existence depends on me, and my perception of the world determines the world I get to live in. So, as a people pleaser, I grew up with looking at life from a borrowed lens, and not just as a people pleaser. I think as a kid, that how we see or how we look at life is through our parents' perspective, or through our whoever is our guardian, right? Our primary guardian. That is how we look at life, and what I realized was all these borrowed beliefs had led me to believe had led me to believe something about me which was not true. it led me to feel resentful. It led me to believe that the world is not the most beautiful place. It is a very scary place. It led me to believe that everybody that I meet is out there to get me, is it's there to hurt me. And I always was um, protective of who I wanted to open up to. And I also felt like I cannot open up to anybody because my feelings are going to burden people. So I had this weird belief about myself, about the world. And the most eye-opening thing that happened for me is that how I look at life is how life looks back at me. The world is a mirror reflection of how I see uh, myself. How I feel about myself is how the world reflects back to me. So, what this concept means is when I close my eyes, the world ends. We think that, I mean, in this hyper aware world where we know about what is happening in completely different part of the world, we somehow think that this is how it should be. Like, I need to be woke and I need to be understanding of everything and I need to be aware of everything. It does not have to be, and it has made us super anxious. It has made us feel that we have no control. And although it is true, but it has made it even more um, it has made it even more jarring that there is no sense of control. But we often forget that even though we don't have a lot of control over what is happening in the world, we can actually control some bits about our life. Not all the parts of our life, but some bits about how I function in the world, how I feel about myself. All of that can be controlled by me. And this, my perception of the world decides the world I get to live in, is such a big one. And I want to give you an example of, if you have a sibling, if you have grown up with a sibling, and if you don't have a sibling, you might have a partner, and you realize that even though you're living in the same household, or you have lived in the same household, both of you have probably have a very different outlook towards the world, because we're absorbing something different from the same experience based on how we have wired our nervous system, how we have wired ourselves to believe. Okay, so for example, I have been that person who was always super sensitive. So my parents were my parents, and my sister got something different from my parents, and I got something different from my parents. Even not just my parents, because they could be different kind of parents to both of us, but even from a same situation. For example, we were both shouted at. I maybe took it as, this is happening to me and I deserve it, and she might have taken it as, oh, okay, I did this. My mother is not in the best mood right now, so I get that it's not just me, it's also her, right? So she might have more understanding of that situation. Probably might have taken it as if it's my problem and it's me who deserves this, and that's why it's happening. And if I took it like that all the time, it became my reality. It became my reality, because how I'm perceiving my myself is how I perceive the world, and then my perception of the world determines the world I get to live in. So that whole incident would ultimately make the world a scary place for me, because I get shouted at, and that is what I deserve. If my mother can shout at me and I feel like I deserve it, then anybody can shout at me, and I have no control, right? So this is how deep seated these beliefs could be. And when I shift my perspective about how I look at myself and how I look at the world, I, without doing anything external, the world shifts for me. The world transforms for me, and this has been the most beautiful concept for me. And I have realized, just sitting at home, living in the same situation, my home looks different to me, because how I perceive myself, and now how I perceive the my home has changed. So this is, like, if I can transmit something from my soul to you, this is what I want you to take away with. This is the first concept, and it also brings in this 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 concept of how, in our nervous system, there is this there are so many different systems in our nervous system. It's not just one thing, right? It's a culmination of a different systems that are there. So one of these systems is called a reticular activating system, which is basically our filtering mechanism. It actually tells our mind to focus on, to what to focus on, right? So my RAS is wired to look at, if I've grown up with this belief, or if I've seen my parents say over and over again that the world is a scary place, and my mind is always working in order to collect data. So it's going to collect data on the world is a scary place. And now my entire belief system is the world is a scary place, and RAS is always looking for the world is a scary place. Now, when I shift this perspective, it will slowly and steadily, I will wire my RAS, and that's the beauty of our brain, that we can mold it and we can rewire it. So when I rewire it, I can actually let my RAS to focus more on the world is a beautiful place. The world is a beautiful place. The world is a safe place. There are beautiful human beings. There are caring human beings. And as I do that, I will see the same reality in a different light. I will perceive the same situation in a different light, and that is absolutely magical. So that is the first concept that helps me quit people pleasing, because I start to, because people, what is people pleasing? People pleasing, to my in my understanding of doing this work for the last 4 years on myself, and now for the last 2 years with clients, is that it's a disconnection. When I feel disconnected from my soul, from the people, from the world, I people please, because I am trying to please some, I'm trying to justify my being here, to justify that I exist, and please see me, please give me attention, give me love. That is the disconnection, right? So when I start to shift the perspective that I have about myself and the world, everything starts to shift. So that is the first concept. It's a very in-depth concept. All these concepts are part of my pay programs as well. I do this work with my clients, and I'm so passionate about this work. So really contemplate about this, really understand what are your belief systems about the world. How do you perceive the world? How do you perceive yourself? These are the questions that I would want you to reflect on. Now we'll move to the second concept. Okay, you cannot feel unstoppable, or you cannot feel like you are unstoppable until you have a physically fit body, because a healthy mind lives in a healthy body, right? So, and this is again something that I've lived with. This is something that I think this concept was the start of everything else for me. This was the beginning of my unstoppable journey. So every physical problem has an emotional root. I solve the emotional bit, the physical health improves. I grew up with a lot of diseases. I had PCOS, I had cervical spondylitis, I had migraines, I had asthma. So I was waking up with pain here or there every single day of my life for about, I think, 12 to 13 years. And I just had weird episodes. Sometimes I would just black out. Sometimes I would not be able to breathe for a month, even after taking steroids and whatnot. I was so anxious. My doctors could not recognize I was anxious or I had asthma, so I was only taking asthmatic medicine. So there was a lot of chaos in that. And I did not realize until much later, to be specific, 4 years ago, when I um, sat with my coach and did this inner child healing, where I realized that all of my physical problems are because I am a people pleaser, and I've been taking so much burden of being a certain way. And when I was trying to not be that, I was actually inviting sickness into my life, so that my parents still love me. Because even if I'm not, so let me be super specific. So I have been told that I need to top, I need to be the first in the class, right? And all of my emotional wounds are coming from my childhood, as most of are come from. So I was told that I need. It was not an explicit thing, but it was very implicit that as a middle class um, uh, ki- um, middle class person, the only way for us to succeed in life is to have a great education, which I still agree with, and to always come at the top of your class, because then you'll be able to go to an amazing college, and then you'll be able to get an amazing job, and you have to be amazing, you have to be at the top of your game all the time. And because of that, what I did was, because it was a lot of pressure to always be first, right? 99 out of 100 was not enough. It was supposed to be 100 or 100 all the time. So I took it as so much pressure, I took it as so much burden, that I had cervical spondylitis. Like, my body literally couldn't take that burden. I had problem to breathe, and that's why I had asthma, because my body, my soul was restricting itself. I was not able to be in the expansion mode, because it was just, I could not breathe in my own home, because I felt this pressure. Okay, and that pressure really constricted my my body. So um yeah, so that really developed a lot of sickness in my life. And no doctor, I went to Ayurveda, and then modern medicine, homeopathy, like I went to shamans, everything, nothing worked, until I realized that this was the main problem. My people pleasing, my being the good girl of the family, was the problem. And when I started to heal that, everything started to melt away. All these physical diseases, which were told to me by doctors after doctors that this is going to be a lifelong problem for you, melted away. So when you solve the emotional bit, and it's so important to have a healthy body, because if you saw the title, I call myself intuitive self leadership coach, right? When we have emotional trauma, when we have emotional wounding, we cannot also access our intuition very smoothly, because intuition comes to us, we receive the intuition hits in our gut, in our body. And when I did not have access to my body, when I didn't feel safe in my body, I would not feel safe in the world. That ties to the um, first concept as well, right? I looked at the world as it's unsafe, because I felt unsafe in my body. So when I solve this emotional bit, my physical health got better. I got in touch with my intuitive self. I was always intuitive, but I could not distinguish between what is intuition and what is fear. Now I'm very clear, this is my intuition. And so much so that last year I started to do intuitive readings and intuitive guidance and channeling and whatnot. And I was the person who was, told to be super in, like, you need to be intellectual and you can't be intuitive, and you need to be intellectual, you need to be scientific. And now I know that science is also like very it's also very evolutionary, right? Like, it's not like hard and fast. Science is also evolving, and intuition is something that we all have. And I can be woo woo and scientific, so all of that, like, I'm going on a tangent, but all I'm trying to say is that, when what is your unstoppable self, who is your unstoppable self, is somebody who's, you can define it on your own, but for me, my unstoppable self meant it somebody who's super, like, who is super connected to source. And I can connect to source when I feel safe in my body. And how I feel safe in my body is actually by working on my emotional roots, because of my emotional wounding, I had developed a lot of physical problems. So this is something that, and nowadays, I think all of us are going through some or the other physical problem, because all of us have some or the other emotional wounding. So you work on your emotional wounds, your physical health gets better. That's a second concept. Now let me move on to the third concept. And this one again blows my mind. No one is thinking about me as much as I am thinking about them thinking about me. Let me repeat it. Nobody is thinking about me as much as I am thinking about them thinking about me. So people pleasing people pleasing then becomes a moot point, because who are we trying to please? Because this person is not even thinking about me. This person who I'm trying to please is thinking about somebody else, thinking about them. right? So everybody is thinking about everybody, so everybody's thinking about somebody else. And so who are we trying to please? There's no point of trying to please somebody, because people are very fickle minded. People do not have like a solid foundation of who they are. How can they also have the, who can judge us? Like, I feel like when you start to get into the depth of this concept, you realize that what the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I trying to please these people who do not have any solid foundation of their own self? And so many of us are confused about who we are, what are we here to do, what are my values, and we switch our values from here to there just like that. And it's okay to be flexible. I am super flexible, but I'm also not judgmental, right? And these and people who we are trying to please, ultimately we harbor resentment towards them because we are trying to please them from our perception of them, but they might have a completely different um, understanding of us. And so again, for example, I would want to score 100 on 100, and that is my ultimate thing. And if when I'm getting like 99, I'm not satisfied, and I think my mother is not satisfied, and because of that I'll still feel like I'm not enough. And she might be dealing with something completely different in her life, and based on that she's reacting to me, because people are living in their own worlds depending on their RAS, their nervous system, right? So again, I would love it to discuss this with you one to one, or even here in the comments. But this concept really is very nuanced, and I would love it if you start to think about it. But know that you wasting your energy on trying to figure out who is thinking about me and what are they thinking about you is nuisance, and it's a waste of time. And I know it's not as easy as I'm saying that don't think about what people are thinking about you, because it's a very ingrained thing. And that's why work on it by yourself. You have all the power to change your beliefs, or hire a coach or hire somebody, work with it with in your friend circle, make it like a fun thing. But work on these uh, work on these beliefs, but because they really shape your entire existence. And I just, again, to give you an example about this, um, your mother, right? Like, we are all so connected to our mother, or even your father, your parents, or your primary guardian. They will respond to you differently on different days. It does not mean that they don't love you, or they don't love you enough on that day. It's just that they are living in their own world. And when, so for example, you as a kid, you might have shown them your drawing, and they did not react to you in the best way possible. Maybe that day they had a fight in their office, and the other day when you showed the drawing, they gave you lots of love, because they were in a good mood. So because they are also living a life beyond your relationship with them, right? And that is what we struggle to understand, that people are living in their own realities. There is a life beyond what we have together. So yeah, like I said, it's a nuanced thing. So think about it, reflect on it. But this concept really, if you start to understand that you are not that important, but you're also very important in your own life, everything starts to shift. Let us move on to the next concept. Again, very, very important concept, that everybody is selfish. Some of us are selfish for good reasons, and some of us are selfish for not so good reasons, and it is absolutely okay. We will never know, and we'll never be able to judge those reasons, right? So as people pleasers, I think we are very selfish, because we are trying to do good things, because we believe that doing that good thing will give me the satisfaction of knowing that I am a good person. And that is a good reason, but but we actually forget to have, again, because we don't have a solid foundation of who we are, we somehow end up even projecting our our values on to others, and we become very judgmental, we become very resentful. So instead of all of that, can we become more selfish? Meaning, can we set boundaries? Can we become like, I do not know what you want from me, but this is what I want from you. So I will focus on this for now. And when I start to do that one step at a time, when I start to become selfish one step at a time, selfish for good reasons, for becoming a better version of myself, then ultimately I open myself up to become selfless. It is very important to be selfish in order to be selfless, right? Why is that? Because unless my cup is full, I cannot pour anything into others, because I'll have nothing left. So if there is a glass of water and there is another glass of water, and this glass of water is empty, what will you pour into another glass of water? And this glass of water is full, and then only I can pour something into another glass of water, because there is something in this glass of water. So similarly, if I am selfish enough to preserve my energy, then ultimately I can extend or share that energy with people who I love, right? And then I can become selfless there. But first we need to be selfish, and everybody is selfish. So let's not vilify ourselves when we are being selfish, right? All of us are selfish. We might think we are, sorry, we might think we are not selfish, but we are. Everybody is selfish, and you choose what kind of selfish you want to be. And as people pleasers, I know that there is a lot of goodness in you. So save your goodness for yourself. Let yourself come inwards. Think about what you want to do, and as you try to do those things, you'll become a better version of yourself. You'll become a, not even a better version, you will become a happier version of yourself, and then you can extend that happiness to others. And I think everybody needs that. We need that in the world. So that is another concept that I want to share with you. This is going to also help you really transform your life and become a happier version of yourself, become the unstoppable version of yourself, because I'm sure your unstoppable version is a happier version of you. Tell me actually in the comments, who is your unstoppable version? Can you give some adjectives or a feeling to this version? Who is your unstoppable version? Now, the next concept that I want to share with you is disappointing people. People, wow. Sometimes English becomes so difficult, but disappointing people is so much better than disappointing yourself, because you have to live with yourself every day. If you don't like yourself, it will be very difficult to live. And I have, whenever I start to think about those times, I really become, it becomes very heavy. and and I just think about how was I even living like that, like feeling like hating yourself and not loving yourself, hating yourself, judging yourself, being, feeling like I am such a disappointment. It's such a heartbreaking feeling, and to live with that every single day, no, we don't deserve that. We don't want that. So it's better to disappoint people, because even if we disappoint somebody and this person is close to us, we can actually then ultimately say sorry and do something, give them gifts. But but to disappoint yourself, that is extremely difficult to live with, because you are the only person that you're going to live with forever. You might make vows with your partner to live forever, but the only person who's going to live forever with you is you. So you really need to like yourself. You really need to love yourself, because if you don't like yourself, you won't even accept the people who like you, right? And I'm sure that you might have heard this. We only accept the love that we think we deserve, and it it actually says, this is another concept, like another thing that I saw somewhere, which makes so much sense, that if you want to know how much you love, how much somebody loves themselves, look at their partner. Because again, how much you love yourself is how you will, um, is what kind of partner you'll attract in your life, right? If again, if you go on that contemplative mode in your life and you start to reflect and analyze your life, you'll realize that where were you the happiest, and you'll realize what kind of environment you were in, what kind of people that you were surrounded with, and it will give you a lot of insights about your life. And honestly, I've done this work. I used to sit and I used to just think about my life, and I made it like a project, like thinking about myself and my life. And all of these concepts are coming from that deep introspection mode that I went for 1 year of my life, where I was not with my family. I just moved to across the country, and I was sitting with myself every single day thinking about these things. And I realized so many things. I let go of so many people because I realized that this is not how I want to feel about myself. This is not who I am. I don't want to disappoint myself. I'm going to choose to be a better version of myself every single day. I'm going to choose myself every single day. And it was very difficult in the beginning. But as I started to do that, my life became better. I started to connect to myself in a more profound way, not in the superficial way of, oh, I love myself, but really loving yourself. You the testimony of how much you love yourself is you being non-judgmental of yourself even when difficult situations arise in your life, after having healed those things in your life. Okay, so again, I'm going too much into that. I don't want to take a lot of time, but I just want to share all of these different things, that so that you can expand your mind, you can think about these things, and know that it's okay to disappoint people. You can always not disappoint them by I mean, after disappointing them, by giving them gifts, by giving them something, by actually having a difficult conversation with them. I think the testimony of a good relationship is how many difficult conversations you've had. Difficult, uncomfortable conversations make a relationship stronger. So if it's all yes, 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 it's a bit it's not that deep, is what I feel. Okay, so yeah, allow yourself to disappoint some people. It is completely okay, but do not disappoint yourself. Have some standards for yourself. You're a unique, beautiful creature. You've been sent on this earth with some of the most powerful gifts and mission. I hope that you allow yourself to share that with people, but first allow yourself to actually be aware of those gifts. And you get to do, you do that by sitting with yourself, by allowing yourself to disappoint people, by allowing yourself to say no to things that are not aligned to you, by falling in love with yourself. So you have to live with yourself every single day, and I hope that you live with yourself as your best friend. Okay, that is another concept that I want to leave you with. This really helps you start to quit people pleasing and embody your unstoppable self. So now I think this is the second last one. I have lost the count, but stop finding your anchor in other people. Anchor yourself in something that is permanent, which is which is God, source, universe, um, mother nature, whatever you call it. But anchor yourself in that who is permanent, who is all loving, who is everlasting, right? And stop finding your anchor in other people. And it does not mean that you cannot rely on people. You absolutely can, but relying in on God first, having God source as your foundation, really opens your insight, open your eyesight to different kind of insights. And so, like, when we are relying on people that are already in our life, we are relying on their versions of ourselves, right? So if you are on a healing journey, and you might have felt that as you start to shift some of your perspectives, but your parents are not shifting, so they will start to look at you, and they will start to say that you've changed so much, and it would feel like, and why am I doing this? Like, I'm disappointing them, right? Disappointing people. And we start to then somehow again go back to that, because our validation, our anchoring is coming from our parents. But when we have anchored ourselves in God's source, we know that we are going on the right direction. Even when I'm disappointing people, I know that I'm not disappointing God, because I can never disappoint God. Um, And that gives me another perspective when I start to build my foundation in God. When I start to sit with myself, contemplate with God, have God, source, universe with myself in my journey, I get different ideas, I get different eyesight, I get different insights, because now I have worked with my body, so I can receive insights, I can receive different insights. Earlier I might be here in my mind, so I was only working with the past. I would probably be working only with logic, that this is possible. But when I start to connect with source, I go beyond logic, I start to create a life which is beyond logic. And that is what I want to do. That is what I do with my clients, creating, helping you create a life beyond logic. And that is the life that is rooted in God, that is rooted in source, because source has everything. Source is not there asking for, oh, I need this from you, I need that from you. God only wants us to live this life in the most expansive way possible, so that ultimately we expand so much, and so much so that we merge into God, into source, right? So instead of relying on people, instead of seeking validation from people, how can I shift my foundation, how can I shift my anchor, and allow myself to anchor in God, source, universe? And I know for some people who've had religious traumas, they might find it very difficult to grasp this concept. Then forget God, because you can actually start to anchor yourself in yourself, because you are also a representative of God on earth. Okay, so when you cannot anchor yourself in God, anchor yourself in yourself, in your belief, in how you want to see, in your higher self, and in your unstoppable self. This also helps you again quit people pleasing, and find, even get clarity on who my unstoppable self is, and start working towards it, walking hand in hand in God. So yeah, stop finding your anchor in other people. This is again very important. I know that it is very difficult to not seek validation from our parents, because they have created our entire worldview. But but parents are also humans. They have made mistakes, they will keep making mistakes, and we can forgive them. We can, if that is possible for us, we can forgive them. And I think a lot of our problems will be solved when we start to see our parents as humans and not God. Because sometimes, and as kids especially, we think that our parents are God. At least that is my kind of culture, where we tend to relate our parents as God, which is not true. Humans are representatives of God for sure. That is what I believe in. But humans are humans, and they get to make mistakes, and we get to make mistakes. And when we allow to see our parents making mistakes, we can also allow ourselves to make mistakes, and that changes things. Okay, anchor yourself in God, source, the one who is permanent, and the one who is all forgiving, all loving. That is going to help you get in touch with your unstoppable self and start to embody your unstoppable self. And I think now we are coming to the last one, the last concept, which is be love to receive love. When we people please, okay, and this is again a lived experience, I started to resent my parents, especially I'm talking about parents, because I really, any other person that I was trying to please, it was because I thought that person is a good person in terms of how my parents defined good people, right? So I was more of a parent pleaser than a people pleaser, and tell me if you are that as well. So I But then ultimately, because anything I did, I had such a high standard for myself. I never came 100 or 100 for that, right? I always was either 99 or 90 or 80. So I always felt this, harbors this belief of I am never enough. And I had that belief for a long time. And I started to resent people, because I resent my parents, because they were not giving me the kind of validation that I was seeking from them. And it just becomes such a chaotic a mess because I was trying to seek their validation by doing things that they wanted. And when I did that, I still felt like I'm not getting the validation. So just I was not able to please them also. And I was not pleasing myself. There was nothing happening in my life that was happy. I was just a shell of myself. I had no idea of who I was, what I wanted, and I just felt like life is a burden and I am a burden. And that is not a good state to be in. So I ultimately let all of that go. I ultimately decided to surrender to God, anchor myself in God, and let myself receive love from God by becoming love myself, right? We are all love. We are all, again, representations of God. So God is all loving. So we are all loving. And when I can pour that love into myself first, I can then let it ooze out from me to the world. And instead of just with nothing energy, I'm sending nothing into the world, right? Or with the resentment, what I'm sharing is going to be all resentment into the world. That is not what I wanted. That is not what we want. So become love in order to receive love and in order to spread love. And once I actually let go of people pleasing or parent pleasing, my parents were prouder. They were more vocal. They have started being more vocal about how proud they are of me, how they love me. And it is something that they never said when I was trying to please them. It's that kind of a situation when we, the whole thing of surrender is this, right? When we are trying to seek something, we will not find it. But the moment we are like, it's okay, it will come to me when it comes, it will just knock your door. The thing will knock, or the person will knock your door right after that. So it is that let go of people pleasing by becoming love, by pouring love onto you. You already have a lot of love. I know people pleasers are biggest empaths. They have so much love, but pour that love into yourself so that ultimately when it is time for you to let it um, ooze out of you, you will have that overflowing of love so that you can let it go in the places, into the people that deserve that love, that require your love, right? So focus on being loving to yourself, which will also let you receive love. Okay, right? And I have so many of my clients come to me and they're like, nobody loves me and all of that. And I'm, what about your partner? And they'll say, yeah, yeah, my partner is very loving, but they're not able to receive their love, their partner's love, because they do not feel they deserve love, because they do not have love inside for them, right? So for that, we need to accept that we deserve love. We need to be become love and allow ourselves to receive the love that is being poured to us by people around us. All right, so those are the 7 concepts that I had for you. Tell me, what are the concepts that you are working on? If there is anything that you want more clarification on, anything that you want more reframing on, I love to do all of that. And if you want my help in embodying these concepts, I do have a program. It's called the Unstoppable You program. Let me just quickly take a minute to talk about it. It's a 3-month hybrid program to embody your unstoppable self, the one God intended you to be. And it's a hybrid program, meaning it's a mix of group coaching as well as one-to-one coaching, because I really believe we get triggered by people and we get healed through people. So I want this space is that place where you heal by being with people, and also because you are a unique individual, you have your unique way of healing. Your body is different, your mind is different. So you, with my inside the one-to-one sessions, we will figure out that you that what kind of healing is required for you, and then we'll also heal together inside the groups. So it's a 3 months course, 12 sessions, which are going to be weekly live sessions, group calls, which we do on Fridays. Fridays are my absolute favorite because of those sessions. And you get like a systemized training modules as well, which you can access for 12 months. Even after you have finished the 3 months program, you can access those trainings for 12 months so that it does not feel like abandonment. And that is another feeling that I've had where there was a very, like, she was I think one of the youngest clients that I had. She was 22 or 23, And on the last or second last day of when I was finishing this coaching program with her, and that time I was only doing one-to-one sessions. So she said that, Ishani, no, I'm not feeling fine now. And I knew that she had had transformative experience in the 3 months, but she felt like I was abandoning her. And it sometimes invokes those wounds of abandonment, right? So I want to also make sure that you don't feel that I've abandoned you. So you get 12 months of access to the core trainings, and you get access to the Facebook private community that we have forever, lifetime. So that you can always come back anytime that you want. You can um, find your support. We can celebrate you for life. So that once you are with me, you are with me for life. So yeah, so that is the program. If you're interested, I will leave the link in the description for you to join. If you have any questions, you can obviously DM me, ask me in the comments as well. I hope you start to embody and see how important these concepts are for us to move away from these borrowed beliefs that have been given to us and build a life that is our own, that is beyond logic. And so that we can embody our god aligned, unstoppable self, and create magic on earth, right? And I really feel like all of us are geniuses, and we've been given that ability to create anything on earth that we can even think of. Whatever we can think of, we can create. And I want us to access that creative power, creative genius that we all have. And I hope that you start to do that either with me or without me, but do that. Embody your God-given self, your God-given unstoppable self, and yeah, just go be unstoppable. Have an amazing life. I will see you in some other training. Take care for now. Bye bye.